Receiving help is not a sign of weakness. It's actually humility. You did not fail because you need help. We are all going to face a moment where we might need some help. You're not weak. You didn't fail. You're not a loser. Like, don't be so proud because you cannot live a life serving Jesus with your fist closed. I'm only going to give, but I'm not going to receive. What? What's up, y'all? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Let It Be the Podcast. I'm your host, Fergie, and today is a special episode. And it's special because it's something that I'm actually living through right now. And I'm gonna be honest, in this the topic about like being the hands and feet of Jesus, that's about giving, but also receiving. And so as I was thinking about like the season that I'm in, if I'm very honest, I was like, God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about this because it's just too vulnerable for me. And if this is your first time tuning in to the podcast, Let It Be is a podcast all about releasing control and embracing grace. And that is like so prophetic because it's not a title that I just made up and it was cute. It's like literally my life. And I feel like a lot of times when God is testing me or, hey, releasing control, it's like you don't have no manipulation in it. You just have to obey and abide in whatever it is that the Holy Spirit is leading you to. And so this episode specifically, I was like, man, I'm in such a vulnerable season right now. I don't want to do it. And so I literally made up in my mind, like, okay, the last episode, I cut it out of the last episode, but at the end of it, I was like, all right, y'all, I don't know when I'm going to come back because in my mind, it was a wrap. I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And God, being God, is like, girl, you think that you know, but you really have no idea. And so this episode is special because it's very like, it's something that I'm currently walking through right now. But I wanted to talk about like being the heart of Jesus, like giving and also receiving. And so, like I said, if this is your very first time, thank you for tuning in to the podcast. I hope that something that is said in this conversation blesses you. And if it speaks to you, share it with someone else. And if you have been supporting along on this journey, thank you so much. Your prayers are felt. Your encouragement is always like so timely because this is hard work to live and be vulnerable, and the amount of effort that it takes to continue to be consistent in spite of life's circumstances, it's a lot. And so sometimes for myself, when I'm like, I can't do this, God always shows up through people, through so many ways. And so as I was even thinking about the topic that he gave me, it was like a quiet whisper when I was like, I don't have nothing to talk about. God was like, yes, you do. I'm like, it's too icky for me. I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do my best to be as vulnerable and transparent because my heart is for people that are on the other side of this, because I think that what we are going through right now, just in the nature of our world, a lot of people are hurting. A lot of people are suffering in silence. There's a lot going on. And I just want to talk about what it actually looks like to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And a lot of us can be on the giving or receiving side. And so that's what this episode is all about. So I just pray that whatever like God is speaking to you in this time, like don't ignore it. Don't think that this is like you didn't come across this video by happenstance. It's not random that you are here. It doesn't matter if somebody sent it to you personally. I pray that God give you ears to hear and a heart to receive whatever it is that he's trying to communicate through this episode. But when it comes to being like the hands and feet of Jesus, it's about showing up. It's about giving ourselves, but it's also about being open to when you are in a space of need. And I want to talk about what that actually looks like practically. And so forgive me if I'm like looking at my notes. I always like, I'm not trying to be perfect as I'm doing this. This is something that I'm really walking through because even as I was in preparation for this, it was like, dang, I need to hear this just as much. And so I'm not preaching at nobody because I done mastered it. It's something that I'm like actually living through. And so this episode kind of like, it made me do some hard reflection, my own. So being a hands and feet of Jesus. So just want to say all that to say, like, it's okay if you need help right now, whether that's financially, whether that's you needing somebody to just show up and support, just to be a listening ear. Like, it is okay to need help, but then it's also okay to be a help to others, because Jesus's ministry, he didn't come here to be served. He came to serve. And so he showed us the way of what that looks like. And I want to talk about that. He didn't separate himself from service. Like his ministry was about service. And if we are believers, if we want to be more like Christ, we have to show up in other people's life. And he modeled the way to do that. And showing up for others doesn't always have to be like a financial thing. Sometimes it's time. It's being consistent, it's being a friend, being like, stepping outside of yourself, being inconvenienced for others. Sometimes it's being on the receiving end. It's like, hey, I wish I had somebody here. I wish that I had the support. I wish I had. And if you allow God to mold your heart, he'll show up in ways that will blow your mind. And that's exactly what has been my journey. Even as just being in preparation of the episode and setting up here today, I started to think about, like, what does it look like to be the hands and feet of Jesus? And for me, that I was on like the receiving end from the very beginning. I've told a lot of my testimony as far as how my upbringing was hard and how I took a leap of faith and moved to Dallas because I turned down an opportunity to work for a major like radio station, and God said, no, follow me. And he's provided for me along the way. And in the beginning of my relationship with God, I thought that I was going to eventually arrive to a space where I didn't need him to do a thing. Like I thought I was just going to like master it. And what this journey has shown me is like, it's always another level. It's always going to go a lot deeper. Like you'll never arrive. And I was so fixated on this, arriving, like, okay, God, like you calling me to do this thing. And once I get here, then I'm going to be a master. But what I've learned is that like I'm being perfected along the journey. And once you feel like you've made it to a certain level, it's like now you're restarting again, because that's literally the journey of life. And so something that I struggle with a lot is not giving, but receiving. And I want to talk about that today too. Because I want to talk about how, like, why we need balance as believers to be the hands and feet. Like we're here because God gave us a purpose. He created something for us to do. And so that is to serve others. But what I've learned is like me being a podcaster now, I have not gotten this far on my own. I'm not made it to a point in my life where I can just give out and I don't need no help. Like I've only been able to get to this point by the grace of God. And so I guess I'll be a little bit vulnerable, a little bit transparent, just in this season that I'm in currently. But I want you to kind of pause and reflect before I get too deep into this. Like, when people experience you, when people hear your story, when people hear your journey, do they see the heart of Christ? Like, where does God show up in your story? When you are testifying, when you're talking to people, what does that actually look like in your life? Like, I know that, and when I say that, because I was actually talking to my small group about this earlier, about pride. Like pride is a tactic of the enemy. And my church is also doing this. I'm going kind of weaving, but my church is doing a series about angels and demons. And as my pastor was giving a description of the heart of Satan, like how prideful he was, and he wanted to be so exalted that he could be equal to God and he didn't need God. When I was reading that description, I think it was in Ezekiel, I have to link it, but when he was given a description, they were given a description of Satan and how proud he was of like, I'm going to do this. And he wanted to be equal to God. I started to think about myself, like being in my mind, like not that I wanted to be equal to God, but I wanted to be so self-sufficient. God was nowhere a part of that plan. In my mind, I'm like, okay, God, you gave me a task and I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do this without you. And that is demonic. Like when you really think the root of it, because that's anchored in pride. And I shared, like when I took a leap of faith and I moved to Dallas, I didn't have a job. I had a word from God, but I was like, okay, well, I got the word and I got everything else. God, I'll figure it out. Thanks for the push. But God was like, girl, he kind of showed me as I lived, the more I tried to do it outside of him, or like not necessarily needing his help or inviting his help in. It was like, you are so rooted in pride and it's going to be the demise of you. Like, and you're exhausted. And that's literally what happened to me. I was exhausted trying to do things on my own. I didn't want to receive help. I didn't mind giving, But that giving was rooted in pride. Like, I'm so good, I can give. I don't need to be on the receiving end. So God has allowed me to experience both sides of the spectrum. And so when you think about like being your heart, your life, your story, your testimony, are people able to see God in your story? I want you to think about when the last time you intentionally served somebody else without expecting anything in return. And it doesn't have to be anything super drastic, super dramatic. But when I want to talk about giving first, because I think that a lot of us, we feel good. The Bible says it's better to give than it is to receive. And I know that giving, it definitely does something to your heart. And so I want you to think about this. Like, in your life, when is the last time you intentionally just did something for somebody else and you wasn't counting the cost? You wasn't racking up, tallying up points about how many times you've done it for them. You just did it because it was on your heart to do. Think about that. And if it's been a while, hopefully at the end of this episode, you'll have a change of heart, a different perspective of that. And I think about giving. God, our creator, he modeled that through Jesus. Like, he lowered himself into humanity. Like, God, when you think about, I've been studying, doing some, I kind of shared this before on my podcast, that I have been taking a class and I'm learning a lot more just about ministry and theology and all of those things. But when you understand, like, God is spirit and he wrapped himself in flesh, which is like how we live and breathe. We are human beings we are spiritual beings having a human experience. But God came to flesh through Jesus Christ and lived, but he showed us the way. Like, his ministry wasn't about he didn't come here to be served. And I think about the way that God even manifested himself in the earth. He was born in a manger. He wasn't born in a palace. He wasn't born rich. He was born very low, because it showed that we don't have to be perfect. I don't have to arrive at this place and now I'm here, I'm a king, and you just need to come serve me. Like, Jesus literally modeled the way for us to be of service to other people. And I want to talk about the practical ways that you can give if it's like, okay, well, how can I? I'm not Jesus. Like, you're right. But God has given you something. He's gifted all of us gifts. He's given all of us talents. He's given us time, opportunity. Like, you can give something so practical. Like, you can pay for somebody's coffee. I'm just thinking of, and I want to emphasize giving because, like, we know what's going on with our government and them cutting like food benefits, and the proud people can be like, you just need to work harder, but you don't know everybody's story. You don't know everybody's circumstances. And for us, we can get caught up in like, well, you just need to do better. I had to struggle. I had to work 2 jobs. I had to do all these things. You don't know what somebody's journey is. And it's not like, you have no place, no matter where you are in life, to sit on your high horse and look low and dictate what somebody else needs to be doing. When right now, if you're living in a space of overflow, you have some to give. You have time to give to somebody else. You might have extra resources to give to somebody else. You can serve literally starting with what you have. Like, you can show up, you can cook a meal for somebody, for your neighbor. You can check in with your family, siblings. You can pay a bill for somebody else. And the most important thing is you can give time. I think time is one of the, like, for me, like, quality time is my love language. And it's my love language because I realize how, like, you can't put a price on time. The effort, like, time, you can never get that back. And so even if people are not able to show up financially, you can give time. You can call me. You can hang out with me. Like, that means more to me than putting money in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? Because it's intentional. And so thinking about serving with what you have. You might not have a lot of time, finances, but you have something to give. And so think about what ways you can contribute to somebody else's life, because so many people are in need, not just financially, but relationally, with businesses. And I'm honestly going to use this example, like, as I'm actively living it right now. So I just recently moved. Right. And I'm gonna just talk about how God shows up in my life and how he's had to allow me to be be humbled through this process. I knew that I was gonna move and I wasn't sure necessarily where or how. And I found myself being so angry with God because I felt like, God, I followed you and it feels like I follow you to my demise, because now I'm not able to, and this is my pride thinking like this, but it's like I'm not able to show up for myself the way that I'm used to showing up. And so I found myself being so angry with God, like I've done everything and it's cost me. Like it's costly when you follow in Christ, because you got to die to yourself. You got to learn how to surrender, all of those things. And so it is costly when you are following God. But following God, yeah, I've moved and I've not been able to do things that I used to do, but I have not gone without, not one time. I shared this in a previous episode. God told me last year that it was time for me, like the season was up and it was time to move. But I did not have the faith. I did not have the heart. And I wasn't ready to be obedient to even following what that would look like. And so what did I do? I signed my lease over again. Now, I ain't had no job in over a year, not a actual full-time job. It's been over a year for me. And God told me, like, okay, we're going to go on a journey. But I was like, I'm not ready. And I signed that lease over. And when I tell you, I did not pay 1 month of rent on my own, the entire lease, the whole 12 months. And when people have been asking me, like, well, how are you surviving? I'm like, literally miracles, signs, and wonders. There were times when people would reach out to me like, do you need some money? Hey, I was thinking about you. What can I help? And just send me money, pay my rent. Like, I'll never forget the beginning of this year when I was like having this moment with God. And I'm like, man, I have done everything. And I was so angry. And I'm like, God, I knew you wasn't going to show up for me. I was sitting in the car having this conversation to myself. I'm like, I knew that God wasn't going to show up for me. I just knew it. And I had a meeting with somebody and I left and I was like, God had put it on my heart to reach out to a mentor just to thank her for speaking my name in rooms that I wasn't in. Mind you, I got like $500 in my bank account and rent is due. This was like January 3rd. And I remember the time because I'm like, I got 3 hours to come up with $1,000. What am I going to do? I knew you was going to play me, God. And I was sitting in a car and he had put it on my spirit to call and thank my mentor. Literally called her and I just was like telling her that the meeting went great. It was opportunities that was going to come from this. And I just was like, thank you for speaking my name in rooms that I wasn't in. She was like, of course, that's what we're here to do. Like, we're supposed to be blessings to other people and I hope it works out. But how can I bless you? Like, what do you need? Do you need some money? And in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm trying to figure out how to generate revenue with my LLC. So yeah, we can talk about ways, maybe grants and all that. She said, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about personally. Do you need some money? I'm finna cash app you right now. I'll Zelle you $1,000 right now. You don't owe me anything. You can just take it and go. And I was like, huh? When I tell you, that lady, she sent me $1,000 at it was like 2:08 p.m. And I noticed because I was so shook because I only had, my rent was like $1,400. I had like $500 in the bank. I did not have the money. Man, that makes me emotional when I think about that. I did not have the money to pay my rent on this day. And I was so dead set, like, God, I didn't think I was gonna get emotional. I was like so dead set, like, God, I knew you was gonna play me. And he came through in a way that I couldn't even imagine. I didn't even know she had it like that, okay? Didn't know she had it to give. Didn't know that she was even willing to give. But God put it on her heart to do. And so without counting the pockets of other people and not knowing and judging, like, you just never know, like, whose life you can bless. For her, it probably was no sweat off of her back. Again, I didn't know this, but she had it to give and not even ask for it back, not think about it. But in the timing of her obedience and the timing of my obedience for reaching out, but then her heart being sensitive to whatever God was speaking to her, my rent was paid when I had like 3 hours to figure out what I was going to do. I had never been late on a bill. I was just so mad at God. And so, like, even in this journey, even certain things I didn't even want to necessarily share because, like I said, a little bit too vulnerable for me. I didn't want people to be able to see, like, oh, like, it's hard. Like, yeah, it's hard, but like, I have not gone without. So even in that aspect of that, like, being so genuine and so generous because they have it to give, and you know somebody is hurting. Even if I didn't ask, she just did it willingly. And so if God is putting it on your heart to reach out to somebody, to do something for somebody, you just don't know what he's trying to work, not just in you, but in that other person as well. So, like, it might not be finances. Like I said, it could be time. Fast forward, me moving, like, so not signing my lease over again, packing up to move. I'm like, man, God told me that I needed to sell my stuff and that he would show me. And I'm mad, trying to go ahead of God and prepare. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to hire my own movers. How you going to pay for them, Brianna? Like, how you going to pay for these movers? I'm like, well, I'll sell all of this stuff by then. But the things weren't selling, like my couch and all these things weren't selling in the time that I thought I would. And so in my mind, I'm trying to go ahead of God, calculate. Somebody from my small group reached out to me like, hey, I was going to tell you this last week, actually, but I forgot. She was like, I want to bless you. I know that God is doing something in your life. And I just want to be a blessing to you. She was like, so I know somebody who works for a moving company and we want to sponsor your move. You don't have to pay for any, you don't have to pay for anything. We're going to do everything for you. Just tell me today. I did not pay to move. Even the stuff that I was stressing about, God showed up for me. And there's been so many little instances like that has happened so far on my journey. But people just giving the resources that they have and the willingness of like, okay, well, I see God doing something. Let me help. Let me be a part of it. Didn't have to pay for my move. Down to the very reason that you're even able to watch this podcast, right? I recorded the last episode and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing it no more. I'm not going to record. This is the end. We'll know. Who knows when Let It Be's going to come back. Somebody watched the episode of me and Pastor DeSante and reached out to me like, I love what you're doing. I want to be a part of that. I want to help you. Now, he didn't know that I was like, I can't record my podcast no more because I don't have nowhere to record it. I don't have the equipment. I just don't have the energy. I don't want to do it no more. He's like, I want to bless you. Literally the reason why you're able to watch this is because God was working on somebody else's heart. And it had nothing to do with me specifically, but whatever he's doing in this person's heart. And so I'm like saying all that to say, like, this is what it looks like to show up for other people. And I'm telling my story. And I hope that it's speaking to you in whatever it is, whatever gift, whatever talent. There's so many practical ways that you can show up for somebody, whether it's just being attentive to being sensitive to opportunities. He didn't know. He just was like, in my mind, I'm like, we're just going to wrap the season up early and I'll come back next year when I get my life together. And God was like, no, this is what I want you to talk about. And I'm like resisting in my mind, like, I don't want to. I'm not going to share. I'm not like, this has been like the week that I've had has been so emotionally a little bit taxing for me because I think that I've been so focused on moving and it's like I didn't think about the reality, and so reality kind of hit for me this week and I was like, I'm tapped out. I don't want to do this. But then somebody's like, oh, I'm free. I can help you. And so even in that aspect, when you feel like you are alone, if you like, you got to be vulnerable, but to know that you are not walking this path on your own. Like the stuff that I share, I couldn't make this up. I couldn't write this story if I wanted to. God is so creative and he's always going ahead of you because this journey is so much bigger than you. The thing that God has created you for, the family that he's given you, the place that he set you in, even if you don't have what you feel like you need, I promise you can. I'm not talking about a God that I don't heard about. Like I've had to live it. I've had to experience it. And yeah, it sucked in the process of feeling like I'm losing and God, you playing me. But it's like my faith is so strong. Can't nobody tell me that God is not Jehovah Jireh because I've lived it. Times when I've been hungry and somebody would send me money to eat. And again, when I started this journey with God and I moved here, I would go days sometimes hungry because I didn't want people to think I needed them. But like I did. And so like God allowing this past year for me to develop in my faith, it invited me into a deeper intimacy with him because my dependence, my literal being I'm dependent on God for absolutely everything. And so I share so many of my stories and my testimonies because I'm not trying to sell you no religion. I'm not trying to sell you religion. Like having a relationship with Jesus is the best thing that you could ever do for your life. You have no idea the ways that he will impact the world through you, through your surrender and through your obedience and your trust in him. You can literally just practically show up with what you have. Even if that is to pay for somebody's coffee, sponsor their meal, a family that might be your family member, they might be on food stamps and they not getting it this month. How can you contribute to dinner for this week? Little things, like there's so many little things that you can do, and giving does something to your soul. I don't even know how to explain it. Last week, I had just moved, I think Friday, the next day I had the carnival that I'm like, I'm just going to volunteer. But that allowed me to get out of my reality to serve and give back to somebody else. And like the joy that these kids had from just being able to celebrate at a carnival and have fun, like serving does something. I don't know what the science is behind it. Spiritually, like it does something. So you can literally serve given what you have. Look for opportunities. If you have a gift, you have a skill, and a friend or somebody is working towards something, how can you contribute? How can you show up and be an assistant? Can you go and pick somebody's kids up? Give them a break. Like there's something like you can be the hands and feet in Jesus right where you are today. You don't need to wait till you arrive. We'll never arrive. We're always going to be in need. And I think that the condition of the world that we are in right now, people need help. A lot of people might not be as bold to say, hey, I need help. But if God has put somebody on your heart, just lean in and see how can I show up? I'll do that sometimes. Like, God, how can I show up in this person's life today? Look for opportunities, but also stay rooted in love. I feel like this is one of the most important things. Like when you give to people, it talks about this in the Bible. You don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Meaning, I'm giving or I'm serving. I ain't gotta post that on the internet all the time. You don't have to show, like, that's gonna be the only recognition that you get. Like when you are doing it, do it from the heart. You don't gotta do it and let nobody else know. Look at what I done did, or counting the cost. Because honestly, that's happened to me, to people who are close to me. Like you've helped me, but then you're gonna remind me every time you help me, or you help me, and now the whole world gotta know. Like when you are giving, like the only person that needs to know is between you and God. There are so many things that I've done for people that the world will never know. That I don't talk to friends about it. Like nobody needs to know. This is between me and God. If God has put it on my heart, even if I don't have it, there's times where I'm praying that God would show up, and I don't got much, but I'm gonna give you what I do got, because I know my experience. I know that God is Jehovah Jireh. I know that He's gonna provide. I know that there's nothing that I need that I've ever gone without. And so if He's allowed me to be in a certain space with people and be able to give, then there's no sweat off my back, because I know where my help come from. And again, like I think that we are starting to see some things, but I think it's gonna probably get a little bit harder for the country, the world that we live in. Like what the country that we used to know, I don't think is gonna go back to normal again. It's just too many demonic activities, just in the government, just so many things that's happening right now. It's just evil in a lot of places. And it can get really discouraging if you are trying to live apart from God. We need God right now. And I talked about this in the episode before. Like you could be the only version of God that somebody ever meets. Even if that's just you showing up with a smile, even if that's just you showing up with the effort, contributing your gift to their business, whatever you can do. Like look for practical ways, but nobody needs to know. Just do it out of the heart. The Bible says, like, I think it's in Matthew 6:1. Go back. I'll quote the scripture in the description below. But when you give, nobody needs to know. Just do it from the heart. There are times where I've been inconvenienced to give to somebody, and it doesn't matter. God will restore. He'll give back everything I need. So look for ways to show up intentionally for people. Also, I just kind of want to recap like certain ways that you can give, because it might not be financially, but you can show up with intentionality. You don't have to just wait for a crisis either. It is good to show up when people are in need, but I think that it is also important to know, especially like in your relationships with people. It might not be a crisis, but you got a new mom in your life. How can you show up? Go fold clothes for them. Like look for ways that are not like dramatic, catastrophic, no dramatic ways. You can just show up. Excuse me. You can just show up for people's life in their everyday life. You can buy somebody's coffee in Starbucks line. Just do it in those ways. I think that we need to see glimpses of hope, and you just never know the hope that you'll give somebody else, the faith that you'll help them build just by showing up and being the hands and feet. You can listen to people. I think about the elders that we have in our lives. Sometimes they just need somebody to listen to. They just need a good conversation. They just need a good laugh. Mental health is there's so many people struggling in their mental health. There have been so many times where I'm like, I wish that somebody would just call me. I don't want to fix it, because being like, when you are a leader and you're doing things, it's like you kind of feel like people kind of need and people are pulling. Sometimes I'm like, man, it would just be nice for somebody to say, hey, and people do it all the time. So I just look for other ways that you can show up for people. It don't always have to be super drastic, but be sensitive to the Holy Spirit. Be sensitive to when God is speaking, putting somebody on your heart to pray for, to do this for, to volunteer for. If there's an opportunity for you to show up for somebody, just do it. You just never know. And also consistency in relationships that we have as a believer. Don't just wait for the holiday season to give back. Like, yeah, this is a time, the theme that we have, Thanksgiving, give, amazing. But make that a lifestyle. Show up every day. There's sometimes like I leave money in my center console when I'm at the stoplight. and I see somebody that might need, it ain't me to judge what they're going to do with the money. But if God nudges on my heart, give whatever you got to this person, do it. There's so many little ways that you can show up and make giving. And I think that that's also why tithing is also important. It's not just about, it's not like God is going to judge who the churches and whoever is not stewarding well. That is not on you. You don't get to dictate who you give to because of what they're doing. Tithing, it reminds you of where your dependence comes from, because money won't have a hold on you. I can give money away and I know it's going to come back to me, and it might not come back in actual dollars, but it'll come back in ways that I need. But I think that if you have a problem with being like with generosity, if that's not something that you are, it's not something that's so easy for you, I'm telling you, if you start donating, even if you don't want to give to a church, give to a foundation. But let go, like, don't let money have such a grip on your life that it dictates everything that you do. That it like you don't, because like when the Bible talks about like you can't serve two masters, you can't serve mammon and God, money. Like some people will do anything for money. You can ruin relationships, but you got some money. Your morale is questioned, but you got some money. Like you don't want money to rule your life. It'll keep you in bondage, and it'll never be enough for you. So check your motives when you are giving. Like what's the motive behind it? Because God gives and he will take away. Okay. And that's something that I asked somebody before that's so like really focused on money. I'm like, if God was to take away the resource that you have to make money, would you trust that he would be a provider for you still? Think about Job. I think about how God, like Satan had to get permission to be tested, but God restored everything. But he never lost his faith in God. It was hard. It was tempting. I think that's the perfect example. My life, like not being able to work. I've been working since I was 15 years old. I've always had a job and a backup plan and a stash. Like I ain't never been without, and I'm not without now. But the way in which I've been able to support myself looks so different. Entrepreneurship is a faith walk like no other. You want to get closer to God and you an entrepreneur, I'm telling you, that will change your faith for real. It'll show you what you believe in, what you're rooted in. But if you are so fixated on money, that is going to have a hold of your heart and it will ruin your life. I'm telling you, the love of money's not bad, but the love of money, if that has the affections of your heart, God bless you. It's going to be a long, hard journey for you. And so I hope that in some of those things that I've shared as far as giving, ways that like to give, ways that you can show up, but really ask God to test you in that way. And that's a if you want to get stronger in your faith, that is a risky prayer, but I'm telling you, it is the best thing, because money don't have a hold on me. Before, I worked 3 jobs at one time in my life. I've always been I'm going to do this. It don't matter if I'm tired, but I wasn't thinking about purpose. I wasn't thinking about Jesus. I was thinking about making sure I'm in survival mode. And that's also a lack of faith. Honestly, being in survival mode because you don't believe that God is who he says he is. And even me in this moment now, I've had to check myself since I have moved. It's like, okay, life looks a little different for me. And so I've checked myself so much. Even like I said, as I've been preparing this episode, I'm like, this was a hard truth that I wasn't really ready to face, because in my mind, I'm a low-key little mad at God. Like I done followed you and like, yeah, now I'm doing stuff in ministry, but where the check at? I think I talked about that before with Pastor DeSante. Like, that's cool, but people in ministry, they ain't rolling in dollars. Not all of them, okay? And so, but God was like testing my heart. Why are you doing this? Even the podcast, this don't make a living for me. Just as great as it is, I'm so grateful that it blesses people, but that's not why I do it. I'm not doing it. I remember speaking to a group of high schoolers before, and they were asking me as far as like, well, when do you start making the money and all this? I'm like, if that's your motivation, you've already set yourself up for failure. If what you are doing is you're only motivated by money, you're already set up for failure. It's because money is never enough. There's all more money, more problems. Now I get it. Like there's always going to be something else, another thing, another obstacle. You're always going to want more. You're going to be in comparison. You want to be that. Don't let that dictate the gift that God has given you. I'll use it as long as I can make money. Because I'm telling you, if this was about money, I would have stopped years ago. I promise you. I would not be doing this. But I love that God has changed my heart and my affections, because I feel like now he can trust me a little bit more. Because I'm not willing to be, I'm not easily manipulated. There's people that I have, things that I have said no to when it comes to the podcast, because this is sacred. to me, and I care about you. I care about whoever's on the other side. And so I'm not motivated by money. I'll walk away from this, before I let money take away the gift and the things that I have warred for, I have prayed for, I have sacrificed for. Money don't have the affections of my heart. And so think about that in any area of your life. Like, what is God trying to do in your life? Where is he trying to use you? And is money controlling you or not? And just ask him to help you deal with that in this process. And I know I talked a lot about giving and like ways to show up for people, but now I want to talk about the other side of being the hands and feet of Jesus, because sometimes being the hands and feet of Jesus is also allowing other people to show up for you. And I'm not going to lie, that is where I struggle the most. And this season has definitely made me vulnerable, but it's made me so sensitive to it's made me sensitive to relationships. It's made me sensitive to the Holy Spirit, because it's like, okay, God, you done took away my means of provision, a way that I saw fit. I never thought that I would ever be in a space where like I'm unemployed technically, but I'm building something that God has given me. But just because I thought that it would be an even exchange. I thought that when God said, okay, I'm going to take this, but trust me, I'll provide. I thought it was going to be, okay, well, I lost my salary, but he's just going to replace that immediately. That is not what this has been for me. It has been a walk. And as much as my pride has been like shattered over and over and over again, like every time, sometimes I still throw something up against the wall and it don't stick ever. And God is like, you have to know that I am the one that's driving this boat. Like, it is me, not you. And so my prayer now is, I was telling somebody in my group, like, this is the way I live my life now. Open hands. God gives and he takes away. But if he takes away, I got to keep my hands open so that I can receive what I need. Because if it was up to me, like, I can't do this by myself. As much as I try to make myself believe I could, I cannot. It's weighty. And it's not just about the finances. It's about the time, the effort, allowing God to use you to help me. Think about like this podcast, the way it's being recorded right now. I was like, I'm not doing it no more. And somebody showed up like, actually, I want to help you. And what you gonna say? No? Because why? You don't want help, or you can't really give nothing back in return? You think you owe somebody? Like, you gotta change that perspective of not receiving help because you don't want to be in debt. And that was me. It's like, you might not be counting the cost, but I'm tallying up how much do I owe people. I don't want this to come back on me. But you know what that's also rooted in? Trauma. So what did I have to do? I had to go and talk to my therapist about that. It's like, I don't want to be so prideful that I can't be on the receiving end. And I can't continue to walk out the calling that God has given me because I can't provide for myself like I want to. I can't control it like I want to, because that's really what it's about. It's about power. I got the power to do this. If I say no, and maybe one day it'll get to that point and God will work whatever he's going to work in my heart when it gets to there. But at this point in my life, you have to allow other people to serve you, because you just don't know. Like, you have to allow other people a chance to obey whatever God is doing in their life. I didn't know what God was doing in my mentor's life when she wanted to give to me. In my mind, I'm like, I ain't no charity case. I don't need. My pride would have been like, but I feel like God allowed that to happen at the very last minute, like on January 3rd, the day that my rent would have been counted as late. I think that he allowed that to happen for me because I care about my credit. I care about like my name. I care about stuff like that. So it's like, what you gonna do? Have a late bill? That's like an ultimate no for me. And I think God allowed it to happen in the midnight hour, so that way I can see. Like, you just don't know what God is doing in the hearts of other people, and also you gotta let people show up for you. You don't want to. You ever hear people be like, "Don't block my blessing"? Like, I hear people say that, and I didn't understand that at first. But if God, like, and my godmom has been like one of the biggest people who always would fuss at me because she would try to help me. And what I do, I don't need your help. No, I'm fine, girl. Your stomach is growling because you eating once a day to preserve. It's like, why go through all of this? Let somebody bless you. And God, and man, I think on one day, maybe I'm gonna tell the story in a book or something. But there have been so many times where God will like give to me through somebody else, and my godmama tell me like, hey, somebody else gave me back what I gave you. It happens all the time. But the way to be the hands and feet of Jesus is literally like this. He gives, he takes away. But if you are a servant, this is how you serve. God, he gave it to me. Oh, I can give it away. And I know that God will give it back to me in some way. It might not be the same way, but in some way he'll show up. And I never want to be like so prideful that I can't allow God to wash my feet. I was thinking about Peter when, like, in that custom in that time, like when they were washing each other's feet, Jesus like, let me wash your feet. And Peter's like, nah. And God's like, if you don't allow me, I have the scripture. I need to find the scripture. But he was like, but it was such a good point as far as like Peter, when he was resisting. This is in John 13. He was resisting Jesus washing his feet. And Jesus was like, listen, if you have no parts with me if you don't allow me to do this, because being the hands and feet of Jesus, we have to give and receive. And the disciples were no different. Even Jesus's ministry, it was based off of generosity of other people. They didn't have a palace where they just lived. They lived and people would come and give and do. Like, that's how, like, other people supported the ministry. We are all in this together as believers. And so you don't want to block other people's blessing either. You got to allow people, like, in the Bible, when it talks about like we carry each other's burdens, that's why I talk about this a lot. Like, community is so important. You're not going to be able to do this on your own, because God uses people to meet your needs, and saying no to that blocks what he's trying to do, whether that's trying to break something in their heart, whether that's trying to heal something in your heart. So don't be stubborn. Don't be like me. I be telling like the ladies that I mentor and all that, listen, a hard head make a soft behind. My butt is tender because I was so hard-headed, and God had to get my attention in a way that's so dramatic. I'm like, now you got my eyes, but it didn't have to get to this point if I would have let my pride go. And a point that I really, really want to make, is something that I had to come to terms with, is receiving help is not a sign of weakness. It's actually humility. Being on the help, like, even Jesus received help. Women supported his ministry. Other people supported his ministry. It is not a sign of weakness. You did not fail because you need help. We are all going to face a moment where we might need some help. You're not weak. You didn't fail. You're not a loser. Like, don't be so proud, because you cannot live a life serving Jesus with your fists closed. I'm only going to give, but I'm not going to receive. What? Now it's like, I'm grateful for this experience, though it sucks. I'm not about to try to make it seem like it just feels good. It sucks sometimes, but I'm grateful for this experience because it makes me so sensitive, but also relatable to the people that God has called me to. I can't just sit up here. Like, that's why, again, why Jesus came in a manger and not a palace. He can relate. He knows he came to serve the least of these. You don't gotta be perfect. You don't gotta have it all figured out. Like, it's nothing wrong with being on the receiving end. It does not mean that you're weak, because nobody can get to wherever God is leading them without other people. We can't do this alone. In the Bible, in the beginning, when it talks about like it's not good for man to be alone in Genesis, when he created Adam, that wasn't just about a spouse. That wasn't about us being a romantic relationship. That was about community. That was about somebody else being able to carry you when you're weak. Whether, like I said, financially, emotionally, spiritually, times when I can't pray, I know that somebody else is praying for me. I know that I can reach out to other people and say, hey, I'm struggling in this, I'm struggling in this area. I need some help in this area. I know that people will show up for me, but I've only been able to do that through my vulnerability. But like, and it's through like surrendering that pride, because pride have you exhausted. I was exhausted trying to do this podcast. I was thinking about this. I said this at the beginning, well, before we started recording. Like, my prayer this year was like, God, I want a team. I want a team of people that don't see this as just an opportunity for them and be attached for the wrong reasons. I want an opportunity for people to see this as ministry. I want a team of people around me that can help me, because I was so exhausted at the beginning of this year. I'm like, I don't want to do this no more. But God, if you bring me help, I'll do it. But in my mind, I thought that I was going to have the resources to pay for the help. I didn't think that it was going to come from me being actually on the receiving end, where somebody just wants to serve because they believe in what God is doing in my life. They believe in what God is doing through the podcast, and they want to be a part of that. Now, I couldn't have made this up. It's like God never shows up the way that you necessarily think that he will. And so I'm grateful that this season has drugged me by the thin edges that I have, because it's made me so aware and so hypersensitive to us, to all of us. Like, you don't have to be You don't have to arrive before you get there. You don't got to have it all figured out before you get people to come. Like, these are the times, to be honest, like even as I'm building this out and as I'm going deeper in ministry, now I'm able to sift and see like the heart of people. Like, you're here not to be a part of something that's cool and flashy, but because you have a gift that God is developing in you and you want to serve other people. That's what this is about. So again, going back to being the hands and feet of Jesus, you have a gift, you have a purpose, you have a call, whatever that assignment looks like in your life, but it's not about you. It's about the kingdom. And so when you keep the kingdom at the center of everything you do, I promise you, God will show up in ways that you couldn't even imagine. It's like I figured I would have help, but when my life started to get a little crazy, I was like, oh, maybe we'll try again next year. I was so ready to be done. I was like, I don't even want to do this no more. And here God shows up like, hey, I want to help you. I think that God is doing something. Let me be a part of it. I'm like, okay. And so again, I wouldn't have been able to get there if I was so full of pride and ego and not being able to receive help because I'm in a low moment. I was like, well, let me get better first and then I'll get the help. That's not how God does this. And so I want to talk about practical ways that whoever you are that's struggling to receive help, because you don't want people to think that you are a loser or that you fail. Even men, I feel like men struggle with this a lot because men believe that I'm the provider. I gotta have this, and I need to think about like having a helpmate. Like, and I think this is a side note. Like, I think about this when it comes to dating. I don't want to fit into no man's puzzle piece. I want to be able to build something with somebody. I don't want to come once you have it all figured out. What's the point of having a helpmate? I'm not your gadget. I'm not your trophy. You know what I'm saying? And so when you think about like building something, and especially because you don't know why people are coming around now, like when you start to do things, it's like, what's your motives, what's your intentions, why are you here? I want to be able to build something when nobody's looking, when nobody is able to, like when you're not here for the wrong reason. I don't want to attract you for the wrong reason. And so you got to be open to help. You too, men, like whoever is watching this, like don't wait till you feel like you got it all figured out. If God is bringing people, friends, mentors, women, like whatever that looks like, allow God to do whatever he's trying to do in your heart. So that way you won't get to something, and I know people who are in relationship, but you don't even know if the person is there for the right reason. And now you stuck and you didn't procreated with this person, and they stuck to you forever. You don't even know if they're here for the right reason. And so allow like this tender space, whoever needs to hear this, like this tender space that you are in. If God is trying to develop something in you and he's brought people that want to help you, that want to show up, let them. If you need help and somebody's able to do it, let them. Let them. Literally let it be. Release the control that you think you have and allow God to show up in ways that only he can. And so how you can learn how to receive gracefully is to acknowledge the need. Acknowledge that you have a need. Stop pretending that you're okay if you're not okay. If you know you're not okay, I'm talking to you and I'm talking to myself. Like, if you know you are not okay, let somebody help you. I talked about how therapy changed my heart, changed my life. I was like, our culture, we don't talk about therapy. We think that like, oh, I don't want nobody to think I'm weak. I'm not going to tell somebody all my wounds and my secrets. But having like going to therapy has literally changed my life. It's changed the way I view life. It's changed my relationship with God. It's allowed me to like get all of the brokenness, acknowledge it, and talk about it with somebody else so that I could receive the help. Because if I didn't do that inner work on myself, I wouldn't be able to be receptive to help. I wouldn't be vulnerable in sharing because I thought my vulnerability would be weaponized, but I had to get healed from that. So acknowledge that you need help. If you need to go and talk to somebody, there's nothing like, go talk to somebody. Like, my life I've been traumatized in so many different seasons of my life. And if I held on to all that trauma and I was like fighting the world, fighting God, fighting everybody, and I felt like I don't need nobody. And that is so demonic. That is a demonic way of thinking that is opposed from God. And so another point is to say yes if help is offered to you. Don't block somebody else's blessing. If somebody's able to help you, let them help you. Be open to it. Do not say no if you know you need help. And you might not want to, you might want to wait and ask, like, well, I don't want to ask. Like, listen, if somebody's asking you, just allow them to show up. Another part is to express gratitude without guilt. And saying all that to say thank you. Let thank you be enough. sometimes when people are helping me, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, how much I'm going to owe you? What I'm going to have to hear about? I start thinking about, oh, maybe I owe you, or I'm not in. Listen, learn how to say thank you. That is what this season has taught me. Instead, I'll be like, well, how can I? Well, let me. It's like, you're annoying. I would say that to myself sometimes, like, you're annoying. And there have been times where I've tried to help people, and I realize, like, you act the same way. It's like, if I'm trying to help you and you trying to maneuver and manipulate how I can help, or only help me this much. Like, do you need the full amount or not? Can I help you in this way or not? Like, don't be like that. That's pride, and pride goes before the fall. Okay. So let that pride go and just learn how to say thank you. And if for whatever reason you owe somebody, God, trust that God will show up to help you restore and repay, or whatever you got to do. But just learn how to say thank you. And that goes back to, like I said, let God stretch your pride. And what I mean with that is, like, maybe the help comes from you asking. This season, there were times in this season that I actually had to ask for help when they didn't offer. And I'm like, hey, I need help. Are you able to help me? And being open to whatever that looks like. You know how humiliating, how humbling that has to be for me, when I would rather go days being hungry because I didn't want nobody to, I would reject when they would offer to help me, to now it's like, hey, I need this. Can you help with this? Like that, I think that those things make you more like Christ. When you empty yourself of pride, when, like, it's okay to be in need. It's okay to ask, because what's the worst they can say? No. Okay, well then trust that God will show up somewhere else. But like in this season, because especially the times that we living in right now, I just don't want you to feel that nobody asked for help. Can you ask? Nobody offered to help. Can you ask for help if you need help? Don't be too proud, because there's so many people who are willing to help you. But if they don't know that you need help, how they gonna help you? You sitting here struggling and in need, but you too prideful to ask for help. But there's people in your life that has resources. They might know somebody. They can connect you to something, but a closed mouth won't get fed. So if you are struggling, and people in your life that know that if you said something, they would at a heartbeat help you. Don't be too proud. We are coming to a time spiritually where we're going to need each other a lot more than we realize right now. I think we're only starting to see the beginning of it. But I think that a lot of this is causing for us to get a little bit closer to Christ, closer to each other. So I hope that just all the things that I've shared with you maybe has given you a different perspective, how to show up for somebody in their life, but also be able to receive when other people are showing up, because it's not one-sided. God didn't just come here to be served. He served other people. So if our risen Savior modeled the way, don't think you ain't no better than him. You're not excluded from that. And so whether that's on the giving side or the receiving side, but I want you to reflect, just as I've shared so many different ways and examples and testimonies, like write down in your life maybe one way that you could show up for somebody this week without you ain't got to tell nobody else, but just personally think about that. Like, how can I show up for somebody in my life this week? Who do I know? A mother, a family, a person, a bill, something. How can you show up for somebody in their life this week? And if you are in a space where you can't show up financially, like, what do you got some extra time? Can you call somebody on your way home from work? Can you check in on somebody? Can you go and check in on your grandma or your uncle, somebody? Like, I think a lot of us are hurting and we are suffering in silence. And so if you hearing this, that means God is speaking to you. Because I didn't even want to talk about this. Like, so God is speaking to you. If you came across this, it's not random. Who in your life can you be the hands and feet of Jesus? And if you are on the receiving end, where do you need God to show up? Who can you ask? What can you surrender to God? Like, are you too prideful to be on the receiving end of the help that you need? Like, ask. The worst that they can say is no. But I promise you, God will make a way. Like, I've seen God show up in my life in ways that when I tell the story, it's like only God can do this. My story has God. I can't exclude him out of this at all. Like, I'm literally living through people's obedience, through people's generosity, like that, like where I lay my head every day is through somebody else's willingness and surrender to God. So don't be too proud to receive help, but also don't be too proud to not give because you want to keep everything to yourself. We serve like this. This is where my heart is. my heart posture is like, okay, God, where do I serve today? I pray a lot, like, God, connect me to the right people. Where do you want me to show up in it? Like, that's my prayer daily. Put me in the right place at the right time around the right people. God, who can I serve today? I'm telling you, even if you are in a space where life is not going the way that you want, even if you are in a space of that, go and serve somebody else. I promise you, it'll make a difference in your life. But thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. I really pray that this has given you a different perspective. And if it blesses you, share it, because it might bless and it might speak to somebody else. Let It Be the podcast is available on all streaming platforms, but we also have a Bible study that I do bi-weekly. So make sure you go to my website, BreeFergie.com, and sign up for my newsletter, because I always send the link and updates through the newsletter. You can follow me on all on all social media at Bree Fergie. Again, podcast is on all streaming platforms. And I want you to let me know, how did this speak to you? Is this something that you've been struggling with, or something that you want to help? How can you give? How can you pour into other people? If you want to talk about that, shoot me a DM or comment below. I always respond, because this was really pressing on my heart, because I feel like a lot of us are in a space where we feel like God is not with us, that he's left, it's too dark, it's too heavy, God changed his mind. All those are lies, and those are lies from the enemy. And so you got to always remember, is this leading me closer to Christ or away? Does this sound like God's voice or not? And the way you'll know that, you got to know his word, and know his word, you got to have a relationship with him. That is so important. This is not the times that we live in now. You can't just hear about God. You're going to have to know him for real. Know him that you know him. Because when that faith gets tested, what are you gonna believe? If your beautiful life that you built, if that ever gets tested, you don't want your faith to be in material things, into earthly pleasures. That's why the Bible tells you not to be fixated on things of this world. Put your mind on heavenly things, because this world is temporary, and there's so many things happening every week. It's a new disaster. So I just really want to emphasize, we have an opportunity to be the hands and feet, because you can be the only Jesus that somebody will ever encounter. But I pray that this episode blessed you. And I always talk about my Let It Be the playlist. If you are looking for music, you're trying to get away from certain music that you listen to, I have a playlist, and it's in my bio. It's called Let It Be the Playlist. It's available on Apple and Spotify, but it's a playlist just full of worship songs. Just helping you, I talked about this in the previous episode, when I need to get closer to God and I don't want to pray or I can't talk, I'll listen to worship music. That is a resource for you. So there's no excuses to I don't know what worship songs to listen to. Tune in there. But that is it. That is all. And until next time, I pray this episode bless you. But make sure you follow, subscribe, share, all the things. But thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Let It Be the podcast. I'm your host, Bree Fergie, and I will see you next time.